views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are the speaker's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of Phi Labs or the Archway Protocol. The material and information presented here is for general information purposes only.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the On-Chain podcast. Today on the weekly news, I'm joined by co-host Max McKendry, aka CryptoChem. How are you, Max?
I'm great. Happy to be here. First time.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. So let's get started. Why don't we dive into the proposals this week?
Yeah. So right away, I want to talk about Stride. They had about 10 proposals come through, actually probably a little more than 10. But it looks like most of these are spam. That can be kind of an issue for a lot of people. To a basic user, you may click on this proposal not realizing it's spam, and it could actually contain a malicious link. So this is a vector that not a lot of people think about, but can become a pretty big issue. A way to prevent that is by adding some sort of deposit amount to make sure that all proposals have some sort of backing monetarily to make sure that you can't just come in and put 10 proposals on the protocol and expect everyone just to vote. They recently passed a prop that upped the deposit to 2,000 Stride. So hopefully going forward, this will be less of an issue and we'll get more genuine proposals on chain.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like someone tried to decrease that amount as well by putting out a proposal for that to be 100 Stride, but luckily that did not pass. Up next, we have Proposal 95 for the Cosmos Hub, which is proposing an Atom Accelerator DAO. So it's a community spend proposal to contribute 588,000 Atom to the Atom Accelerator DAO grant program. So currently, this is looking like they have sort of like a group of people that decide which projects are being funded. So all of these projects are meant to be open source, and they can also be tooling for the Cosmos ecosystem and just supporting anything that's just community driven.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's important that the hub does start to allocate the resources and really get people interested in building a lot of the things that the hub needs in terms of public goods infrastructure. However, with this specific proposal, I think they're asking for over 500,000 Atom, which at current valuation is well above, I think, $5.5 million. So with that type of monetary value attached to it, I would like to see some milestones put in place or something to basically ensure that the committee is doing exactly what they said they're going to do and really executing on it before they get access to the entire pool. And I also noticed that they have a somewhat predetermined group of people that they have on there that they'd like to be part of the committee. I took a look at it and they're actually all very, very qualified and people that I would actually most likely vote for in this situation. But in terms of just the general ethos of the Cosmos, I would like to see the community have a bit more say of who those members of the community are, maybe even adding a few general community members as well to have their input taken.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, the fact that they're only funding open source protocols also makes it a little bit more difficult for smaller teams that might not have as much backing or something like that, or as many resources to really thrive, because if everything's open source, then everything can easily be taken. So yeah, but I would like to see more community involvement in that. But so far, it looks like a great initiative. Maybe put some milestones in there or something to make it a little bit better. But other than that, so in the Cosmos, speaking of funds, Injective has announced an ecosystem fund. It's a $150 million fund that aims to accelerate the developer adoption of Injective and have people build on the layer one.
And it looks like they attracted some of the biggest players in the space right now, including Pantera, KuCoin Ventures, Jump Crypto, Gate, Delphi, and many others. So Injective doing a nice job of really drawing attention to the Cosmos and getting that ecosystem fund set up for developers. Something I think is very important and something I hope that other protocols are pursuing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this week also saw a new draft proposal on the Cosmos forum on Discourse, talking about potentially lowering the lower band of inflation on Atom's tokenomics to 0% to allow for 0% inflation for some time, while they come up with a better solution to, make Atom's tokenomics a little bit more sustainable long term.
Yeah, this is interesting. I think dynamic inflation is a good idea, right? Like as the number of bonded percentage change, it should be separate incentives. As that security begins to lower and the bonded rate goes down, you would expect to have a higher incentive to really get people to want to put their tokens back and bond them and stake them to a validator. But by lowering the lower half all the way to zero, it's interesting because the point of inflation, at least the way it works in the Cosmos, is to incentivize security by basically giving the inflation to the validators. By lowering it to zero, I'm not quite sure what the plan would be going forward to incentivize security, although I do like the idea of looking at the inflation and making sure that it still makes sense for where we're at currently.
Yeah, absolutely. Up next, there's been buzz in the Cosmos ecosystem, specifically within Osmosis, to fix a problem with negative yield.
So one thing I think that maybe not be as common knowledge as some may think is that there's an inflation rate that is basically the percent, let's say per year that of tokens that are being released or being, I guess, minted out. And that may be different from what the staking rewards are. So right now, Osmosis, I believe, has around 37% inflation, while their actual staking rewards are a little bit lower, I think in the 22 to 24 range, depending on the bonded rate. But really what that's saying is that the inflation is growing at a faster rate than the actual rewards being paid out to stakers. Therefore, even if you're staked 100% of your Osmo, you are being diluted slightly by that inflation. So I believe their solution is to basically redirect 70% of the liquidity pool incentives back to stakers to incentivize security rather than incentivizing liquidity, which to me actually makes a lot of sense. I think Osmosis has done an excellent job of attracting liquidity. And at this point, with the amount of liquidity they have, it might make more sense now to refocus on incentivizing security to ensure that liquidity is safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So up next, we've got Confio's heartbreaking announcement that they are halting public goods work as of February 1st until it is once again a viable income stream for the company. So yeah, that's heartbreaking, heart-wrenching, and it sucks that the outcome of like a bear market and a little bit of FUD in the ecosystem results in really great companies having to shut off divisions that are really just good for the rest of the ecosystem.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, Confio actually was the development company. I believe they're led by Ethan Frey, who really pretty much invented Cosmosm, right? They built out Cosmosm, the modules and the way that we interface with the blockchain today. So they've been an integral part of the Cosmos and the tech stack. So for them to have to make this decision, it's disheartening for sure. I believe from their article, they said they're burning about $2 million a year providing public good infrastructure maintenance and helping chains. So I fully understand how this can become unsustainable for them. But I just hope we can find a solution where it works out for everybody, because it would be a big hit to the ecosystem if we lost a team like Confio, who I consider to be one of the best development companies around, especially when it comes to proof of stake.
And today, Informal Systems announced the launch of Comet BFT, the successor to Tendermint Core, which was being stewarded by Informal Systems.
Yep. And like you said, so previously Tendermint Core, which is the consensus mechanism that is attached to the Cosmos SDK, was maintained by Informal Systems. However, they've decided to move on from that for various reasons, including trademarks and things like that made it difficult for them to really market and work on all the repos. So they basically come up with their own version, and they're going to fork the Tendermint consensus to create this Comet BFT. I believe they will continue to steward it and maintain it as they did before with Tendermint, just under a different name. I believe this will probably be a fairly small change to some people who utilize the technology, but overall, I think it's really just a matter of getting their own version of it that they can really take ownership of and build out. So it may seem like a bad thing, but I think it's actually a really exciting thing that's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. So up next, outside the Cosmos. So the California DMV is going on-chain. So they are building a private blockchain called the Shadow Ledger, and it'll be a copy of the existing database. They're partnering with Tezos, and they aim to have it be live in the next 3 months.
First thoughts? Awesome name. Awesome name. I like that. Secondly, that's really cool to see that, you see more of this Web 2 kind of thing coming to Web 3 when you start to see DMV, which is a state-sponsored entity, coming over to the blockchain, it really starts to make you think that they're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel and that there is valid use cases for the blockchain, which is a big change in the narrative. For a long time, the blockchain and crypto, as many call it, does not get the best reputation, but showing real world use cases like this, I think, are big for the steps we're trying to take.
Yeah, some of the targets of this shadow ledger are transferring vehicle titles a lot more easily and transparent, reducing processing time, and ensuring compliance. So all of these sound like really positive outcomes from this initiative.
I agree.
Yeah. So up next, there is drama in the fashion world. So Hermes filed a lawsuit against Rothschild in January of 2022. So a little over a year ago, after they released the Metaberg NFTs. Essentially, Hermes is claiming that this hurt their brand because Rothschild has confused customers who think the Metaberg NFT is somehow linked to the fashion house or any of the purses that they, claim to be representing. And then they're also hurting Hermes's chances into going into the future NFT space. So the trial just began last week.
Wow. Okay. So this is a very interesting case, right? Because there's a couple things at play. One, designer bags and designer really brands are really based on their exclusivity, right? So when you start to cause confusion, like issuing NFTs and people start to purchase them thinking that they may be used for like on-chain redemption per se, maybe you turn your NFT for a bag, but that's not what's happening. So it creates a lot of confusion. So I definitely understand where this would be a problem. And then on top of that, there's a lot of things they do to create that exclusivity, right? I know Louis Vuitton has historically destroyed all their bags, excess bags, after a certain run is done or after a certain season has passed, strictly to keep that supply off the markets. If there's too much supply, it causes dilution, and they don't want that for their brand. And that's the same thing kind of happening here. As you extend into the NFT world, but try to tie it back to their brand, you're kind of diluting it. So understandable approach by Hermes. Interesting to see how this will turn out.
Yeah, we burn tokens, they burn bags. So makes sense. Yeah, there we go. But yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see how this turns out. It'll be I think a landmark trademark case in terms of like just the NFT space and what you can and cannot do with certain licenses. So yeah. And
awesome. I mean, crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. So I think that's all for today. Max, thank you so much for joining. Yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
Happy to be here. See you guys.
Bye.